Welcome to Issued for Construction. I'm your host, Jonathan Jacobs, and today I am in beautiful British Columbia, in Vancouver, on a short little stint out here because I was told through multiple people you should speak to some people in BC. And I was like, well, if I should go to BC, then I should just go to BC. So then I came to BC. And so today, thanks to Eunice of Double Space Photography, I was introduced to a practice in Vancouver that has done some pretty beautiful work. The practice is young, they are ambitious, they're lovely people. You've already read in the title who they are. So I will now say I'm sitting with Emma Sims and Darcy Hanna of And Daughters. Thank you for joining today. Thanks for inviting me into your shared boardroom, and I'm sorry to the person that didn't get it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, and thanks for the interest. It's
of course.
Lovely to chat with you today.
Yeah.
That introduction through Eunice is actually a good example of something we're going to hear a lot about today. How much this industry runs on relationships and referrals. Emma and Darcy's whole first year in business ran on exactly that. People like Scott and their old employers vouching for them and passing along work. That idea of relationships driving a business is something a partner of the show has built their whole approach around. Kaplan's Appliances isn't just an appliance store. They see themselves as an industry partner. One way that shows up is through their business development, operations, and sales masterclass series, something they haven't talked about much publicly, but they run it multiple times a year, bringing in industry leaders to speak with business owners in this space about how to actually grow. For Kaplan's, selling an appliance was never the finish line, it's the starting line. What matters to them is relationships that last for decades, sometimes generations. If you want to learn more, check the liner notes or email me directly and I'll connect you with Janine, their industry liaison, who will get you to the right person in store. And while you're there, ask about scheduling a lunch. Deborah and her team will actually cook a meal for you on the appliances you're considering. And if you're enjoying this show, a 5-star review helps a lot. You can follow along on Instagram at Issued for Construction. Details in the liner notes, reach out to me direct. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca. Okay, back to Emma and Darcy and how that referral actually turned into a first project. We were able to kind of break some ice chatting before we turn on the mics. And it's part of what I like about this is that it's just an informal chat. And at the same time, it's like taking stock of kind of where you're at this phase of your career. But the best part is that we don't start there. We start in the beginning. Let's do some origin stories. And so I won't ask who goes first, but I want to know, where were you born? What were your early interests? Who were you?
Darcy, you can start.
I was born in Toronto, Ontario, and spent my formative years growing up kind of all over the city. We moved quite a lot.
Why?
My parents had some early kind of substance abuse issues. And so they divorced when I was quite young. Both of them went into treatment. I ended up moving in with my grandparents for a period of time. And then when they got healthy, they got reestablished. My dad ended up starting a company that became quite successful. But my mom bopped around a little bit. So yeah, grew up kind of in a little bit of a kind of chaotic situation, and spent, probably went through 5 or 6 different houses before I was like 13 or something like that. I was a pretty shy kid growing up.
I would imagine so.
But had a really lovely experience with my grandparents, like formatively, and specifically, well, both of them actually. My grandfather passed away when I was 9, so
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We had really like fond memories together, and my grandma as well.
What were some of the things that they taught you in the time that you were with them that you can recall as, like, I don't know, just some formative stuff?
Yeah, like my grandma was quite religious, so I
Okay.
did spend like quite a lot of time in church with her,
Okay.
which was also I think like from a young age, like being in those kind of buildings was like formative for me. It's
Yeah.
kind of terrifying, but also like really interesting just to kind of sit and look around. I was less interested in kind of hearing about what the priest was talking about necessarily.
Yeah.
But from a young age, there was kind of this interest in just kind of like, wow, these spaces are incredible. And my grandfather, we spent a lot of time just doing kind of like silly little things. Like we played cards a lot. We played tic-tac-toe.
What did you play in cards?
We played
Gin?
We did play gin.
Okay.
They played bridge. I was still kind of young for bridge at that point.
Yeah.
Euchre was also really popular.
Euchre, yeah.
Which I feel like is more of an Ontario.
Fish?
Fish, yeah.
Okay.
Played tic-tac-toe. We watched the Flintstones.
What are the Three Stooges? You ever watch that?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They had one of those like really old, like huge TVs in their living room that you had to like go up and do the
tube TVs. Yeah. No remote.
No remote.
Yeah. Only the presets of like what you saw on there and hope that you could get the reception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the furniture covered in plastic, pink carpet. It was a sight. And
Definitely formative for design.
Yeah. But when I moved back with my parents, probably one of my other earliest kind of forays into like I didn't grow up necessarily in like a creative family where we talked about these things. My dad is actually like he's quite an amazing guy in that he is like kind of multi-talented. Like he's very, very intelligent in terms of business, but he's also very, very creative. And we would spend a lot of time just drawing together. He has an incredible kind of hand.
And
which
like a doctor too.
Yes. I mean, I could go on. He immigrated from Egypt when he was I think 15 or 16. They landed in Montreal originally. Come from a huge family on that side. There was my grandfather is one of 8 and my grandmother is one of 12.
Wow.
So I've got hundreds of cousins. And basically in the 60s, things started to get volatile politically in Egypt and almost everybody left at that point and kind of dispersed all over. Some people went to Australia, some people went to the States, but a good portion of people went to Montreal.
Okay.
And that's where my family originally landed, my immediate family. My grandfather couldn't find work there originally, so they ended up kind of hopping over to Toronto. It was quite a difficult experience, I think. Like they were fairly middle class in Egypt, but when they left, they couldn't really take anything with them.
Right.
So they went from quite a comfortable life there and to, quite difficult times growing up in Regent Park.
For those of you unfamiliar listening right now from different parts of this world or Canada, if you don't know, Toronto, this would have been in the 80s?
This
90s?
would have been the
earlier
70s.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. Regent Park in the 70s was not a place you wanted to necessarily be.
No.
It was a very, very challenging area that has since gentrified, but very, very tough place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And he went to U of T, which is where he met my mom.
Yep.
Originally was in medical school. He wanted to be a medical researcher. He's, I think, 2 credits shy of actually having his medical degree.
Could he still finish that today?
Probably if he want. I don't know. I mean,
just like check that off the list.
Yeah. But he had kind of this like aha moment where he was like, I don't want to spend my life around sickness, basically.
Yeah.
And he describes this kind of day where he was at St. Mike's at U of T campus. He was supposed to register for his final courses and he just couldn't bring himself to do it. And he walked across the quad and ended up in the marketing and business kind of department, I guess, decided that's what he was going to do. And never looked back. Ended up working for IBM for a lot of years, traveled all over the United States with them, and then started his own computer service company, which he still has to this day, although he's like mostly retired now.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What a story of perseverance. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I understand.
But we had a lot of fun together,
Yeah.
like growing up. Once I was back with them, and one of my very, very formative memories in Toronto is spending time at the Science Center together. Probably my first real like interaction with serious architecture, and I didn't have any language for it all the time. It was like completely subconscious, but it like embedded something in me, the experience of being in that building. And I think even today, there's like a lot of kind of threads that maybe because Raymond Moriyama was originally from Vancouver.
Yes.
And, there's this kind of inherent connection to landscape and architecture in that work. And it's certainly something that we think a lot about in our residential practice, sometimes commercial, kind of depends. Those were kind of early seeds sowed for me.
That place is very special. I mean, I grew up, same thing. I grew up, and you kind of felt like you were scaling a treehouse with the escalators and stairs.
Yeah.
Right?
I recently read a little bit about, I can't remember their name. It was one of the partners that was working on that project at the time.
From Moriyama Teshima?
Yeah, described kind of the process or the sequence of like moving through that building. If you don't know, there's kind of like 3 buildings that are connected and they scale down this ravine.
Yeah.
And you enter kind of at the street level, and that's, I think, meant to be kind of like this experience of being in the canopy. And then you go down this like really cool escalator, like all the way down. And then you're just like at the forest floor. And it's about, really having this experiential kind of conceptual experience with the site. It's
incredible. When that news came out, I like jumped at calling Moriyama Teshima, and I was like, so if anyone listening right now, not to take away from this episode, but you could go and look through the history. There is an episode about the closure of Science Center.
Oh no, it's closed.
Oh, it's been closed honestly, for a couple of years now. It's going to get.
I was just like fantasizing about taking Fig there. As
well, you
described
can, but you'd have to like fly a drone over it and get arrested. Or you could listen to the episode, and Brian Rudy from Moriyama Teshima talks about like the evolution of it, and like some of the engineering and stuff, that some of the reasons why in which it was being deemed necessary to close, but kind of debunk that. Anyhow, it's a really interesting episode. And I also, there's another one with recently with Carol, who's the managing partner of Moriyama Teshima, and she talks about some of that stuff too. The place is incredible. It's just like a staple of Canadian architecture in brutalism form.
It's all cast concrete, and the way that they formed a lot of it with boards, but like actually pushed the concrete through. So you have this like incredible kind of
like fins.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like exposed, really raw. Like if you ran your hands along it, like you would develop some calluses if you kept doing that.
Yeah. And then the site has kind of taken over a lot of it too. Like all of this like vegetation growing on it. And it's, it's a national treasure and an absolute travesty what's happening with it.
Yeah. Well, things change. Whatever.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. When I told my daughters that it was closing down, my eldest was like in tears. Because we would go there. It's from our door to the front door of the Science Center is about 4 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so all winter, and Toronto is like not a pleasant place to necessarily be in like bad winters. You would just drive across Eglinton to the Science Center, and they'd be in like this haven.
I think that was part of the reason we went there so often. It was just like,
so accessible.
Do? Yeah. It's so accessible. It's so affordable for the community.
Yeah.
And it's a huge indoor like entertainment.
Yeah.
It was one of the first like interactive science museums I think ever built.
Well, and it was also one of the only commissions that was handed out in Canada to a completely net new practice.
Yeah.
Like it was their first project.
So brave.
It's crazy. And like, a Japanese immigrant, wild. If only the procurement process was like that nowadays. Anyhow, we digress. And Emma, we will get to you eventually.
whatever. I'm fascinated. I actually wanted to give you a hug at one point. I was like, she's being so like vulnerable and sharing so much.
It's great. I mean, that's the format,
I know.
right? This is how you're listening to this. This is the purpose. This is the full intent of what this is meant to be.
Yeah.
Right. It's just why I would say, like, you become very diffused very quickly because we're just having conversation.
Yeah.
A couple microphones around.
Oh, it's cool. I'm learning about my best friend.
Yeah, stuff. That we never
talk about.
talk about.
Right. So, and the beauty is that like now it'll have a place to stay. So let's talk about, evolution of you as a youth. You talk about drawings. What you didn't talk about was what were you drawing?
Mostly like just little figures. Like he was quite good at portraiture. So there's a lot of drawings that I have still of his, just kind of in a binder of. We also I'll just link this back. Like at a young point, we really had a cool opportunity to get photographed by Yusuf Karsh at a young age. And he is obviously quite incredible photographer and photographed some really important people. And so my dad actually ended up like drawing a lot of those, like the portrait of JFK. He has a charcoal drawing that he did. He drew my grandparents, like my teta and Geddo. There's a beautiful charcoal drawing of my teta.
What about you? What were you drawing?
What was I drawing? I was honestly just like enamored, and I did not have the hand that he did. So I was just, he had this like,
of course, this is your hand. Okay.
He had this rack of markers, and I was just kind of like enamored by the scale of, and all of the different colors. And I was getting in there and kind of filling stuff in. The one drawing, which I still have from that time, which is maybe the best thing I've ever drawn still, is a piano. It's very sketchy. It's in charcoal, but
you still have this.
I still have this. It's framed in my house.
So this is going to get noted for me. So those listening now, at one point during the week of this release, go to our stories on Instagram. Go Issued for Construction on Instagram, and if you're willing to, you'll send this to me, a digital copy of it, and we'll put it up on as a part of the stories so that you can see some of the early artwork of Darcy.
Love to.
Okay. Okay. And so, and what about like in terms of like, extracurricular activities and your interest in school? Like what were you taking to? What were the courses that you liked?
Yeah, I had struggled in school a little bit. Like there was not one particular course that I really, really enjoyed on like an elementary level.
Okay.
I did a lot of art, a lot of drama.
Yep.
And I enjoyed those things. I was terrified of math, and it was like my plague, all throughout high school. Actually, in hindsight, like my brain like does work kind of in that logic way, and I wish I'd had kind of some better teachers that didn't make me feel
inspire you.
Intimidated by
you just
it.
need time too, because I was like that too. Like I thought I was terrible at math, and now in architecture school, it came really naturally. I just needed 10 years to like
get there.
Yeah, like. I don't know. I think that maybe teenage minds aren't ready for math most of the time.
Well, some.
Yeah.
Some aren't ready for the creative side of things. Yeah. They just only want math or science.
Yeah. Our teenage minds aren't ready for math.
Always played sports. Always was kind of involved in some kind of athletic endeavor. Like
fencing?
No fencing. But when I was kind of like 6, 7, we grew up in North York, like kind of in Willowdale area.
Yeah.
And
you grew up around the corner from where I lived.
Right behind Baby Village. Yeah, that was
no
the
way.
I was born in. And
blocks from where I grew up.
There's like a little ski hill there. So
Earl Bills.
Yeah, Earl Bills. Where I learned how to ski, and that's been something that stayed with me my whole life.
Same. Do you remember the really, really shitty pizzas that they had there?
Yes.
There's a tiny ski hill in the middle of Toronto.
It's a nice, when you say tiny, well, as a kid, it's huge.
Yeah.
Right?
No, but I'm trying to imagine what this is. Is it like man-made, or is it?
No. It's a hill. So Toronto is really known for ravines. There's like the whole city is a series of ravines in all different areas.
Mm-hmm.
and this happens to be in a substantial ravine in the central part of like kind of northern Toronto. There's a golf course not far from it, the Don Valley Golf Course. It's a public course. And then you have Earl Bales. And there's 3 runs. There's a larger central run, and then there's a chute. And for those that can't see me, because no one can, I'm air quotes on the chute, because it's like you make 4 turns and you're at the bottom as an adult. And there's a central chair for that. And it's city run. Okay. And then there's a small bunny hill for kids that are either doing, not snowplow, but inverted snowplow to like climb up this small little thing. There's a rope tow that goes way too fast for any kid to be able to hold on to. So you just watch all the kids fall flat in their face nowadays.
Dragged up the hill.
Yeah, literally dragged up the hill. And then these city staff are like, just get up.
Let go.
Yeah, let go. You're ruining for everyone else. And then you just watch like kids pile on each other. And then there's also, is there a magic carpet? I don't actually know if there is a magic carpet there anymore.
Remember the magic carpet, yeah.
But they did have these small little pizzas, and I have these fond memories of this.
Delicious.
They were so good. They were like, they're terrible, but they were delicious as a kid. With pepperoni and cheese. Like that was it.
You guys were for sure skiing there at the same
100%
time.
we were.
How old are you?
83.
84.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. For sure. We're probably in the same
It's
class.
kind of crazy you don't know each other.
Right. We're in the same class for sure. And then hot chocolate. And so you'd get like hot chocolate and pizza and like that, like did it.
Yeah. The watery hot chocolate was amazing too. I loved it.
With the marshmallows on the top. Yeah. For anyone listening that just got really bored, sorry.
Really went off on a tangent there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
It was a treat to watch. I can tell you.
Don't worry, Emma. It's coming.
Where should I pick up?
Where should you pick up? I don't know. Anywhere.
You were good at skiing.
Yeah.
Because you are really good at skiing.
Yeah, I mean that's
You got your foundation for turns at Earl Bales. Look at that.
I did, and it's something that's been with me my whole life. It was part of the reason I moved out to Vancouver. It was like I went to UBC for my undergrad, but it was half cheap ski pass, half school.
To be honest, I'm actually okay with the way you just advanced that. So
there's a gap.
There's a gap. I get it. But also I'm looking at time and I'm sitting here and we're looking at Emma and I'm like, okay. So let's go briefly into the period of time. So you went to UBC. Let's come back to UBC. Emma, let's go to your origin story, and then we're going to come back to you, Darcy, on university.
Okay.
Okay. Or the lead into university. So are you ready, Emma?
Yep.
Microphone's yours.
All right.
Something Emma and Darcy touched on earlier is how much they've already had to travel for this practice. Whether it's Darcy's exchange in Tokyo, Emma's year in Glasgow, and then Paris, or later building a barn on a family property all the way to Oshawa while running a Vancouver-based studio. Running a small practice rarely means staying in one place, and that's actually what got me thinking about a partner I want to tell you about. An Amex card changes what that kind of travel feels like. The anchor benefit for me is lounge access, over 1,000 lounges worldwide, so instead of sitting at a gate before an early flight, you're somewhere quiet and comfortable where you can actually get work done or just have a proper coffee. And beyond that, you're building points that turn into real travel. Flights, hotels, car rentals, upgrades, is sometimes essentially for free. If you feel like you might be leaving value on the table, reach out to me and I'll connect you with their team directly. And if you're enjoying the show, a 5-star review goes a long way. You can follow along on Instagram at Issued for Construction. Details are in the liner notes. You can reach out to me directly to reach any of our contacts. It's Jonathan, Jonathan at issuedforconstruction.ca. All right. Let's get back to Emma because I want to hear how she ended up in Vancouver in the first place.
So, my origin story.
Yeah.
I was born in Vancouver, right here.
Wow.
Yep.
Very few people are actually like born and
what everyone
raised
tells me. I actually happen to know quite a few people.
Well, I would imagine so.
Yeah. But no, that is something I hear all the time. And it's true. There are a lot of people, a ton of people that we know from like sort of adult connections have come here from other places. But yeah, I was born at what, like, actually, it's kind of cool. My dad was born in the same hospital that I was born in, and my daughter, I gave birth to my daughter.
3 generations in the same hospital?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So it used to be called Grace Hospital, and now it's called Women's. But
I feel like that plays into this whole story.
yeah.
Women's hospital and daughters. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I grew up in East Vancouver.
Okay.
In a part of the city that it was very different than it is now. It's kind of like what you were describing, Regent Park. Like, I mean, so I grew up on Fraser Street in Vancouver, Fraser and 24th, in a big old heritage house that my parents bought. The story goes that they wanted to buy this house, and the house was like in terrible, terrible shape. And it was at a point in time when nobody really thought that this part of Vancouver was, was worth much. And nobody thought that old heritage houses were, worth much. So anyways, I remember, I wish I could remember the actual terminology because it has been brought up many times throughout my life. But apparently the bank told my mom that it was unsaleable, they were refusing to give my parents a mortgage to buy this house. My mom just insisted somehow. And so they got this house, and the stories about the shape it was in are kind of legendary in my family, but my parents kind of put it back together over years. Literally, my dad, I have a jig, basically, a cutout for a lathe, pattern for the spindles that he made himself for our front veranda.
Was your dad a woodworking?
He was a carpenter, yeah.
He was a carpenter.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't trained as a carpenter. He was a photographer, but when they decided they wanted to have a family and buy a house, he had started to kind of work as a carpenter for a construction company in Vancouver that actually still exists and still carries his name. What actually happened was he started working there. It was called H. Douglas Construction, which stands for Heron Douglas. And over the years, he and his another guy in the company bought Heron out, and it became Murray Sims Construction. And Heron is still a cool guy in the city who we run into from time to time. He's like a quantity surveyor. He's kind of like the main quantity surveyor, I think, and who does, single family residential in Vancouver. So,
I love it.
So there's all these connections. But anyways, back to that's my meandering that I told you I do, but
we're here for it. So are you listening?
My dad restored this house. I guess I should say my mom and dad did it together, actually. And it was it's still there. He sold it, but I think he saved it, is sort of what I sort of feel is that, to me, I'm pretty certain that had they not bought the house and done what they did, that it would have been torn down, in the not too distant future at that point. And so I grew up there, and the neighborhood was a bit rough, but our house was amazing. My mom had a magical garden, and
what do you mean? You had special beans that you could go meet, go up the beanstalk?
I mean, it was just, she had a real way with plants. So we had a really enormous and robust vegetable garden and all kinds of other beautiful. Anyways, it was just a really lovely place to grow up. And yeah, I guess I went to elementary school in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
what did you do for extracurricular activities?
I was a swimmer. I swam on a competitive swim club, or with a club.
Yeah.
And I played water polo.
You played water polo?
Yeah.
And you did competitive swimming.
they kind of went hand in, like my club wasn't like the preeminent club. It was like a summer club.
Okay.
And then we did winter training, but a lot of people who swam would also end up playing water polo. It was kind of like a fun side hustle. Yeah.
For anyone that's never tried water polo, if you've never tried it, you don't understand how challenging that sport is.
Yeah. I played co-ed too. It was really
my
crazy.
God. It's so physical.
Yeah. Yeah. You would wear multiple bathing suits because it was
The bruising.
The likelihood that one would get torn was often you would wear your best bathing suit on the bottom and then you would layer your torn bathing suits on top so that.
Did you know this, Darcy?
And you all needs to. And we also had to do nail checks before every game
to make sure that they were short enough that you wouldn't claw someone's skin off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because basically you're treading water the whole time and there's a lot of splashing. So the refs can't see everything that's going on under the water. There were usually I would check a girl. But if you got if
you were strong, you might take,
or you sort of switched checks
for
whatever reason. And I had a guy on me. There were times where you could literally be under the water. They'd have their arm or leg wrapped around you and you just couldn't move.
Or you're getting pulled under.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm going to go here, but I'm going to go here. This is why I don't think that it's fair. There's a crossover between those that feel that they should be they might call themselves a female, but they're not. They should not, that crossover of sport should not be happening. But that's just my own personal opinion. I'm going to insert into this right now because of what you're saying right now. It's not right. Anyhow.
A co-ed water polo is a very intense sport to play. But yeah, and I ended up, I didn't want to go to my local high school where I applied to a program called the Mini School program, which operates in Vancouver. At the time that I went, there were only 4 of them in at 4 different high schools in Vancouver, but they're enrichment programs and, it's just kind of one small class per year. And they you integrate a little bit with the main school and you integrate more and more as you kind of progress through high school. But it enabled me to go to Point Grey. That was where I went to high school. I went to the mini school there, which was amazing. Our high school, every year we went on several trips. We had sort of enriched classes and just all of the students that were in my class had applied and gone through a fairly rigorous process to be accepted into the mini school. So it kind of felt like everyone really wanted to be there. And there was a certain, enthusiasm that I think was really positive. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what else basically.
So it's a collective question is how did you establish and at what age that there would be an opportunity to be able to pursue something in design? Were you in high school when that was presented, or had you been made aware of the opportunity to engage in a career in this earlier than that? Where was your first real aha? Because you talk about it with Darcy, you talk about it with the Science Center, but were there any other defining moments in your youth where you're I think I could actually go and pursue this?
I think that growing up with my dad doing what he did, he for example, he built an Arthur Erickson house when I was a kid, or he built multiple.
Framed it?
No, they built the whole thing.
Oh, they built the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why I just distilled it down to framing. I apologize.
No, their company they were pretty hands-on.
Incredible.
Construction company.
Did you ever get to tour any of this stuff?
Yeah. I've been to the Arthur Erickson house.
Yeah.
They also did a lot of Dan White houses, who's another designer, architect in Vancouver who's quite famous. Yeah. And so like, my dad would often have job sites. Like I remember specifically for quite a few years, there were a whole bunch of Dan White projects along Point Grey Road, which I'm not sure if you've been to Point Grey Road, but it's this really amazing stretch of road that runs right along the waterfront in sort of just past Kit's Pool. And it's now been made far less accessible. When I was a kid, anybody could drive down it. It was like, just a regular street. The powers that be recently, a couple of 10 years ago, changed all that.
It's kind of billionaires row now. Chip Wilson lives on Point Grey Road, and
they blocked off one end. It's really harder to get to. But anyways, for a while, my dad had a bunch of Dan White houses that they were working on along there. And so we would go and watch the fireworks, like in the job site.
Yeah.
Because it was like amazing.
That's so cool.
Views. Yeah. Like I remember like many, many years, there was actually another amazing, do you know that really cool apartment right off of Stanley Park? That's like the concrete with the circular, they did one that was like a whole floor of that. And we would go and have like picnics or like, anyways, I feel like we spent a lot of time in and around these job sites, and the designers that were working on these projects, because they were such high-end projects, were really amazing designers. Like Robert Lettingham worked on so many of these projects. And so I feel like there was like a high level of exposure, but I didn't connect myself to any of that until later.
Yeah, you were the sponge. You were absorbing things that were around you, and none of it was being wrung out yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it is.
Yeah.
And my experience was like a little bit different. Like I had these kind of like formative experiences, like being in churches and cathedrals very young.
Yeah.
And then spending time at the science center. And then throughout high school, like again, like I didn't know any architects. Like that was not something that I was ever exposed to. It was not something that even entered my psyche, but like subconsciously was this like kind of washing over. And I guess like something in me was just interested. Like I remember when I got my license in Toronto in high school, one of my best friends, Colt, and I we would literally drive around like Forest Hill, Rosedale, like just looking at houses. Like I was just fascinated by single family homes. But yeah, didn't think about it at all.
We would have passed each other while we were just driving around too. I actually have fond memories of doing that in the winter.
Yeah.
I used to love driving around cool residential areas in the winter, because you could see the way that snow would sit on roofs and how it would highlight, different types of light during the day and the way that it would move off of a house. I never even really associated this with anything until we have this conversation right now.
Cool.
And like listening to music as I was driving, like just the soundtrack to these drives.
Especially when it snowed, because it would be so quiet.
Yes,
like the snow would just dampen everything. There'd be nobody out.
Yeah.
Especially if you get out right after, because it was just like untouched.
Yeah.
Very special moment. Thought I was the only one.
No, there was another psychopath doing the same thing. Okay, so how do you establish that you want to get into architecture school, and in what school do you go to? What does your portfolio look like? Tell me.
Well, I was really good at high school. I got excellent grades. I was really interested in history and languages, and that's what I studied in my undergrad.
Yeah. I
initially had the intention, I was really good at those subjects, at languages and history, but I also sort of focused on subjects that I knew I'd get high marks in, because I had the intention of going to law school because I wanted to make money. But
damn capitalist.
Yeah. Then I spent my third year of undergrad. Like I went to UBC for undergrad, but my mom was really sick. And I actually had intended to go to McGill and didn't end up going to McGill. I got in and I was supposed to go, but my mom was sick. And so made the decision to stay in Vancouver to be closer to her. And I feel like my parents felt bad about that like, I think they felt like I made the right decision.
Yeah.
But I think that there was a little concern that, I was missing out. And so they encouraged me to spend my third year on an exchange abroad. And
where?
Well, my little brother played the bagpipes. And
what?
Yeah, we're not Scottish either. But he played the bagpipes with like a world-renowned bagpipe band that's based here in Burnaby.
Did you know this?
I did. And if you knew Cooper, like it would just be so unbelievable to think that this is like his origin.
Cooper, you are an interesting man.
Yes.
Okay.
And so my parents had left me in my last year of high school for like 2 or 3 weeks. It was like amazing. I had a party. They got me like a credit card so I could buy groceries. I got to drive the car, and they went to this tour of Scotland with the bagpipe band with my brother. And my mom came back like raving.
That sentence was like, of all of the things that have been discussed on this podcast so far, there was one thing that I would have never forecasted.
And I never would have thought I'd bring it up, but somehow
here we are.
I know. So my mom came back raving about Glasgow. She just loved Glasgow. Like she really loved Charles Rennie Mackintosh. She loved his wife, who was like an artist as well. She really loved the University of Glasgow campus. And so when I looked at where I could go, like what were the possible places to go for an exchange through UBC, that was one of them. And I picked it and I went and I spent a year in Glasgow, and it was amazing.
Had you researched about it beforehand?
Not really. Like I was like 20. Like
I know.
But I mean, I was just mainly in school, and but I met some really amazing people. It was a really hard year because my mom actually had a liver transplant. Like basically I left in September. Like I flew to Glasgow. I'd never been there. I flew there alone. I spent my first semester there, and I think I turned 20 there. And then I wasn't supposed to come home for Christmas. I was going to go, one of my roommates was from Belfast, so I was going to go there. And then my parents sort of surprised me with a flight home. And I came home and was sort of naively like we knew my mom was on a transplant list for a new liver. She had hepatitis C. And so I knew that she wasn't super well, but I kind of found out once I got home for Christmas that she had like one of this sort of later side effects of hepatitis C is liver cancer, like tumors. And so I found out on that trip that she had cancer. And so that's why they brought me home. So I spent Christmas with my family, and then I flew back to Glasgow in like the early part of early January. But I knew that she was on the list for transplant, and we kind of had a agreement in the family that if she found out she was going to get a liver, there's this sort of thing where they were going to begin the operation and determine whether basically if her cancer had spread too much, they would, I think this might be too much information.
No.
They would not proceed with giving her the liver but if it hadn't spread, they would do it. And so I was kind of on call in Glasgow because if she got the call that she was going to get a liver, and I needed to, we then would need to sort of wait and find out if they were going to proceed. And if they were going to proceed, I needed to
do the stress test.
I could, because the highest chance of someone rejecting a liver and dying is in the first couple of days.
Yep.
So anyways, that was that happened in February. I flew home for like a month, and then, she made it. I went back to Glasgow. I finished up all of my exams and stuff. And then I came back that summer. And then she actually passed away in August. It all kind of went south. So it's like a really insane year for me. But while I was in Glasgow, I met. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, you were talking about the loss of a parent earlier, and I feel you.
Yeah.
I was close to both of them. My mom was amazing, but thanks. And But when I was in Glasgow, I met this woman who was from Sicily, and she was like a DJ and spoke 5 languages and smoked like a chimney and like was just so like the coolest person I had ever met, Flora. And so I went back to Vancouver, and I was like, my whole family was just trying to like survive in this sort of fallout of losing my mom. And I spent a year looking after my dad as much as I could, like helping as best I could, and my brother too, and finishing my undergrad. And towards the end of the year, my friend Flora wrote to me and was like, do you want to move to Paris with me? And I was like, I could use that right now. Paris. Yeah. So we moved to Paris, and I think it was when I was there that I pieced together that I didn't want to go to law school and I wanted to do something more creative. Yeah. So
what a fucking story.
There you go.
Hot damn. Right? Didn't you all enjoy that listening? I don't know. I'm talking to myself right now, but that was, wow.
Yeah. There was some
moments.
Ups and downs.
Yeah.
Highs and lows.
I mean, Darcy, before you go into yours, I just want to say it. If you're listening to this and you've ever lost someone of consequence, a parent is a big loss. But when you lose someone or you don't have the connection to them, and it's in some ways it could feel the same way, I would say that the hardest part that we all deal with in this life is not being able to share your current successes with that person and the evolution of who you have become as a person with that person. As much as you enjoy everything that you have and all of the stories that you can share with those that are around, there's always that little an undercurrent of not being able to share the excitement of what's happening now with that person. I think about that all the time. There's a reason why that I got these, like, no one can, if you've met me, you've seen them, but I have 2 tattoos on my arms, and they're like all the core memories of my dad. And I always try to wear t-shirts so that I can see them.
Yeah.
To keep them prominent as like a reinforcement of.
Well, it's so wild. Like, I lost my mom so long ago that, like, I mean, I think this is maybe the year where I will have lived longer without her than I did with her.
Wow.
So all of the, like, besides my dad and my brothers, and, we have some very good friends and extended family and stuff. Most of my network of like all my friends and family, like, never knew her. They just know her through like what I share.
Yeah.
Which is,
and your dad's photography.
Yeah. My dad, he took the most amazing photographs of my mom.
Could we put one of those up?
Absolutely.
On stories?
Yeah. So before my dad became a carpenter, he took photos of my mom and somehow just got to the essence. Like, he took such great photos of her. And they're up in my house. But yeah, I feel like, I think that my biggest sadness is that she never got to meet my daughter. But I also feel like when I had Fig, I had this moment where I realized that if I had changed anything in my entire life, it's like, that's that butterfly effect. Yeah, that if I had changed anything in my entire life, I wouldn't have her, like this exact person I'm so in love with. And I feel like that kind of frees you.
Yeah.
It's like, it means that you don't have to regret anything because all your paths like that you chose led you to
where you are. Right. We didn't know we would go here. Right. But here we are. I mean, I'll tell you, like, when, and not to take away, Darcy, to tell your story in a sec, but like, my youngest is like, your kid, if you have multiple kids, like, your kids are different the same way that you're different from your siblings. And if your parents had siblings, they're all different from each other. But I have these distinct memories because my dad died. My youngest was 1. And my wife and I, we joke, like, our youngest would not go to anyone except for the 2 of us. Wouldn't happen. Like, my mom, my wife's mom, no. My father-in-law, I love you if you're listening to this, but like, wouldn't go to him. But my dad, he was like a very rigid man, but also like very playful. and he loved his grandchildren. In the year that he was he went through massive highs and lows in that last year of his life, she would go to him and she would sit on his lap quietly and like calm. And it never happened with anyone else. Mm. And she doesn't know him. She only knows the stories of him. But the joy that she had in her like internal calm in being with him, I have these memories that they will carry me for the rest of my life. Yeah. Formative figures, right? Sorry.
There's like an imprint there.
There is. And look, and the reason that I like to go into this kind of stuff, if it gets there, is that what you do is such a personal thing, and clients have these types of stories as well. And when you have this opportunity to be able to express what you've experienced, it allows you also then to be able to connect with people that are in the midst of going and renovating their heritage home. And they're going to create and form these memories inside of this place that are going to be things that their children will then talk about years later, mm-hmm. that will have formed who they are in a way that you never really like stop to think about. As much as you try to pull it out of them in the discovery phase of working with them, you learn more as you go through it. But like, this is the stuff that allows you to connect to those pieces that they're going to go and want to share. Mm-hmm. And most of the time you don't have a format to be able to go and talk about it. Which is why I love this. Anyhow, mm-hmm. Darcy, sorry. So such a long fucking tangent. Sorry, everyone.
No, it was very lovely.
I mean, I think like a similar thread that I can pull through that is like, maybe we discovered that architecture was a path around the same time in our life. Like I went to UBC for my undergrad. I did an arts degree. I ended up majoring in sociology with a minor in political science. For a long time, I thought I was going to go into like something in politics, like whether I was going to
politics.
Yeah. Like I didn't want to be a politician.
Okay.
But like work for a think tank or maybe be a staffer or something.
Huh.
Like that.
What was the connection to that?
I've always been very interested in politics. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I read the news every day. It's just something like we always had a TV in our kitchen and it was always on and it was always the news.
Which news?
CNN.
Yeah, CNN. Yeah.
My dad still is like CNN all day long. Yeah. I do not watch CNN at all anymore. But it was just like kind of always this like hum in the background.
Yep.
And so I don't know. It's just like, it's what you grow up around. And you're like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. But the reality of like, playing out what that looked like, I was like, oh God, like, no, like, absolutely not. This is not what I want to do with my life. Mm-hmm. But the education in sociology, I think, was really formative. Like I got really interested kind of in thinking about systems and people and behavior, which may not be like the most obvious kind of translate to architecture, but honestly, it's how we start almost all of our projects.
Yep.
Like it's really thinking about on a big macro level, like how do you live, like, and especially in residential work, because it is so specific and it's so intimate.
Yeah.
Developing that kind of framework, that systems framework for how you live your life. Like, what are your specific interests? What is your family structure? Mm-hmm. How is that going to change? All of those things kind of influenced, I think, on, again, like a subconscious level.
Yeah.
And then I had finished my undergrad. I'd actually taken a year off and I moved to Whistler, and I was just a ski bum for a little while. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do next.
Hold on. Whistler. What are some of your favorite runs?
I lived in Creekside.
Okay.
So
Peak to Creek?
Peak to Creek is like, a very, very special one. And I lived in Gondola Village. If you're familiar with that, it's kind of like this, they call it, what are the Star Wars little
Oh, Ewoks?
Ewok Village. Yeah, it's kind of like this kind of block of buildings all on top of each other. I think
Yeah.
it was something like, I counted at one point 124 stairs from like the street to our unit.
Yeah.
But I would, I basically avoid the village unless I had to go into work, and we just take the Creekside Gondola and do like mega laps. And coming from Earl Bales to doing peak, you do maybe like 2 or 3 of those in a day kind of thing.
It's a serious day.
Yeah.
Can I share only one really short story of a Peak to Creek story? My first time, I had probably, like, my wife snowboarded. She taught at Whistler. And when we met, she was like, she's an incredible snowboarder. And I couldn't be in this relationship where I couldn't like do it. We're both very competitive with each other. Love you, Wendy. And so I started snowboarding, and then I got to the point where I was confident enough to be able to go out west. So I went to Whistler and went out there with some buddies. There was a guy through friends that worked there. My buddy was a former rep with Burton. He was amazing. So we went out and we did a Peak to Creek day, and they both went ahead of me. And when I say that it was snowing, like massive chunks of snow. And like near whiteout, like you couldn't see about 100, 150 feet in front of you. And to the point where, like, if they were going so far ahead, their tracks were pretty much almost gone by the time I was catching up. I fell into a tree well.
Oh my God.
And I was like 12 feet down in a tree well.
Upside down?
Upside down. And I had pocket dialed my cousin, whose place we were staying at. And I somehow had reception. And I was at a stage where, like, I thought I was going to die.
Oh my God.
And I'm voicing my disdain for where I'm currently at while leaving a voicemail message for my cousin.
Oh my God.
I'm in a fucking tree well. I'm going to die by myself. Oh my God, I'm upside down. And like, eventually, I only know I'm leaving a message because I can flip myself around, eventually unstrap my board, climb out of I use the board to climb out of the tree well.
Oh my God.
Yes. Like pack it down and then get to the next stage and then lift the board up and then like creating stairs to get out of the tree well, finally get to the top of the tree well. And the snow's
saving architecture.
I will tell you that I have shivers telling this story, that it is like one of the most humbling experiences of my life. And I got to the top and like, I am pouring sweat. It took me about 30 minutes to get out.
I've had a similar experience to that in my life. And there was like, there was a time where I was skiing 100 days a year. Like, it was really like, I honestly considered like moving to Whistler full time and just pursuing that because I loved it so much. And I was dating a guy at the time who was a very capable outdoors person. And we had a sled and we'd be in the backcountry all the time. And I had a couple of experiences over a couple of years where we lost like 6, like in avalanches, and mostly through kind of experiences like that, but a couple of people like hurting themselves badly and then not making it. And I was like, I love this, but there's also like other things. And there's a lot of risk here as well. And it's a young person's game to a large extent too. And yet here I am, just brought my bike out here and I'm like hammering down the side of a mountain. I live right by Seymour, Mount Seymour, and I have a pass and I still am up there all the time, but I don't take myself too seriously anymore. Sorry, we that day I ended up finding my friends. Got to the bottom. I was like drenched inside and I was like, you guys have a great day. I'm going to the bar. Yeah. And I ordered a pitcher and I put a straw in the pitcher. And by the time they were done the next run, I had finished the pitcher through a straw. I was obliterated. Ooh. And rightfully so. Yeah. Anyhow, sorry. Near death experience. Calls for it. So skiing onwards from there. Yeah. And I don't know, at a certain point, like around that time, it just kind of crystallized to me all of this kind of experience of like being in the church, being at Ontario Science Center, spending my kind of teenage years driving around. I was like, oh, maybe architecture is something that I would be interested in doing. And so I moved after my undergrad. I ended up moving back to Toronto for 2 years. I got a job with a really small little architectural think tank that was doing a residency at the Design Exchange.
Okay.
So that was kind of my first, even though it was like I wasn't doing design work, I actually like reached out to Raymond or Moriyama Teshima at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll do anything. Like, I just want to be like involved. And of course, they were like, no. But,
Carol, was that you?
they were like, what are you going to do? You have no skills. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
But I had rigor and passion.
But I'm passionate. And so I was trying to find a way in because I had nobody that I could kind of call on within my immediate network. And so, I found this kind of funny little role at the Design Exchange. And then I applied.
Luigi Ferrero was involved in the Design Exchange, I think.
Not when I was there.
Okay. You would have.
The director at the time that I was there was this woman, Samantha Sinella.
Okay.
I don't know if she is still there or not.
Okay.
But very cool building to have spent a couple of years in. And they have an incredible archive and library of design objects, which I was able to kind of experience and be around. And then, decided to apply. And that is maybe a good segue into how we met, actually.
Yeah, so how did you meet?
We met in our first week at architecture school we both applied to and got into do our master's degrees at the University of British Columbia's School of Architecture and Landscape Architecture.
Why you say it like
it's
that?
Such a mouthful.
Oh, whatever.
SALA it's called. But we both got in the same year, and the school introduces each incoming group of new students by having them attend a drawing workshop where, I think it's still happening. When we did it, it was run by a professor called Martin Lewis. And it was cool because it was a 2-week long thing, I think. And you basically learned to draw by hand, which is not something that gets much time in the sort of regular curriculum, but I think it's sort of, I think it's a really beautiful way to introduce new students. A lot of them are coming from, like we were, from sort of unrelated fields of study. Anyways, we were learning to draw using like pencils and rulers and drawing boards and all of that. And so I think that's where we first met. And then 2 weeks later, we began classes at the campus out at UBC. And you when you're just starting, it's your first semester, they put you into groups for your studios classes. And Darcy and I happened to be in the same group. We were with John Bass, and at the Lycera building out at UBC, which is quite a cool building. It's basically set up so that there are these kind of bays of desks lined up in front of windows, amazing old jalousie windows. And so there'd be like 4 desks on each side. And Darcy and I are fans of natural light. So we basically raced to grab the 2 desks that were beside the windows and ended up back to back, and very quickly developed a kind of rapport based around just proximity, really. I don't know if you want to add to that in any way. I feel like that, yeah.
Emma and Darcy just described racing each other for the desks next to the windows in architecture school. And honestly, that thread runs through everything they've talked about: light and how a space connects to what's outside it. Even the bar they designed above Namos came down to controlling light and the feeling of a room opening up. That same idea is exactly what a partner of the show has been building for years. Martin and I were talking a couple of weeks ago about a project he's involved with in Muskoka, 2 to 3 hours north of Toronto, with sight lines out to the lake and the granite shoreline of the Canadian Shield. The idea behind the doors is less frame and more glass. So you're not looking at a view through a window, you're standing inside it. 20-foot high glass, 20-foot wide glass, corner glass with no post breaking the view, even glass that runs from the wall straight up through the roof line so a tree outside doesn't stop at the ceiling. You get to see all of it. Their systems get up to 16 feet wide and 9 feet high. Imagine a slider of that size, sometimes larger depending on the structure. The Doors is family owned, run by Martin and Marta, managing projects across North America, the Bahamas, and the Caribbean, with no extra charge for revisions to shop drawings or custom colors. If you want to experience something different with a window supplier, head over to the liner notes. You can find their contact information there, or email me direct. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca. And again, if you're enjoying the show, 5-star review means a lot. Please take a second, do it. It really helps. And you can follow along on Instagram. Details, again, in the liner notes, or reach out to me direct, Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca. Now, back to Darcy, because I want to know how that job at Scott's office actually started.
I mean, I think maybe anybody who's gone through the kind of architecture school program will know kind of what an intense process that is, and especially your first year. I think we were a cohort of 40 or 50, and we lost something like a third of our class by the time.
I think that's the intent.
Yeah, exactly. It's for better or worse. It's meant to kind of really put you through it and see what you're made of, what your metal is, and that inherently just creates a really, really tight group. Yeah.
Like from our group, our year, which is like 30 people or something. I'm in business / very, very close friends with you. My life partner is another person from who started and finished in our group. And we're still friends with
at least half of our cohort. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It had a way of even as someone, it's remarkable, I think, because I'm from Vancouver and I went to university, I did my master's of architecture here in Vancouver. I think it's such a sort of statement about how important and sort of life altering the experience of going to school that way is, that really most of the people that I feel close to and sort of have a community with are from there. Even though everyone I went to high school with is here, everyone I went to undergrad with is here, it's my community that I was gifted through architecture school that really stuck,
Yeah. Well, it's your people. I talk about that with everyone. You finally find your people.
Yeah.
Right? All along the way, you've been friends with people. But these are the people that you feel you're like-minded with, that can appreciate what the rigor is of the day to day.
Yeah.
Collective trauma.
Yeah. So let's talk briefly about the stint of work outside of school. You graduate. What does it look like in terms of finding your first gig? And then from there, let's talk about the evolution of the relationship between the two of you and how you eventually decide it's time.
You want to begin?
You start. No, you start, Darcy.
Okay. So I actually started my first design employment position while I was still in school. I think I was through our second year.
I think it was end of
first year even. It was
or maybe not, because we were doing evenings and weekends. I can't remember.
I mean, I think those things overlapped a bit, but that's a sidebar, which maybe we'll come back to. But basically, I was introduced to a designer in Vancouver named Scott Posno through a family friend, and he has a small boutique firm that does almost exclusively single-family home projects.
Yeah, and
so he very kindly took this young, keen student on. And I worked with him for, half of my architecture career. I did an exchange in Tokyo for one semester and I was gone for it. But aside from that, I was working on in school kind of simultaneously for at least half of my degree. And then when I finished, I continued on full time with him. And so I was I was there for maybe 6 or 7 years total.
Okay.
It was a very formative experience because it's an extremely small office, similar to how we run ours. It was just him and I. And as a result of that, you just kind of get pushed into the deep end and you got to learn everything. I had to figure out how to deal with consultants. I had to figure out how to deal with the city. I had to figure out how to deal with clients. I had to learn design, really. Like, I mean,
were you involved in the like the business development process as well, like sale at all, or not as much?
Not as much.
Okay.
My dad ended up building a very cool. We have a farm property about an hour and a half east of Toronto,
Okay.
East of Oshawa. That was a project that ended up happening at Scott's office while I was there. So I guess I brought one project in
From out of province.
Yeah, which was a formative project as well, to be able to work on that, both like with my family, but also to be given kind of, I was given a long leash at his office and was able to really, I think, get exposure to things at a young age that maybe other people aren't until later in their career.
Did everybody get a long leash at the office?
It was just me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then that makes sense.
Yeah. We were side by side, which was why, I don't know. I think like I kind of got a fast track into learning a lot of things as a result of that.
Okay. And you had kept in touch this entire time?
We were like very close.
Yeah. Socially, we were still hanging out all the time, talking all the time.
I mean, I feel like Darcy and I were like very, very, very good friends throughout all of architecture school. Like we did design builds together and we did our theses like side by side. We did several studios together. Like we were pretty inseparable. And then, but yeah, Darcy was working at Scott's. When I finished, I actually did a little bit of work for Scott as well, like picked up some jobs when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to work.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really hard time figuring out where I wanted to work here. I think just to sort of double back to explain why I went in the direction that I did. Like when I decided to apply for architecture school, it was actually because I had been contemplating applying for interior design school for an undergrad in interior design.
Okay.
And my dad, who, like, as you know, like worked in the industry and knew lots of architects and stuff, he was like, you should just apply for a master's degree in architecture since you already have an undergrad. And if you get in, it'll be a great experience. And then once you're finished, if you still want to work in interior design, he was like, I think you could probably do that. And then throughout architecture school, like I ended up loving, this sort like learning more like about architecture on a larger scale and the kind of conceptual, framework or, like way of thinking that comes with an architectural education. But I think when I left, I still gravitated towards interior-based work. Like I wasn't especially drawn to institutional scale projects and that kind of thing. So I dabbled a little bit. I took work where I could get it from people that we knew, but ultimately I was approached by St. Marie. They wanted to know if I wanted to go and work there. Like it was when Craig's office was still really tiny, relatively speaking, like compared to what it is now. But I loved what he was doing and I loved the spaces. I loved, like I was able to go to all of these restaurants and they were so compelling and interesting.
And he's such a good, interesting guy.
And he was doing something so different to me as well. Yeah. Like it was, an approach that he was unafraid of really creating an entire world and in a space. And I think that coming out of architecture school, so much of what we were looking at was so restrained. And so I really liked like the work that they were producing at St. Marie. And so I went and I worked there. And I worked there for a couple of years. And the project, like I worked on a bunch of different projects while I was there. But the one that I was sort of like overseeing, I was like the project lead on, and it was a long one, was the Botanist, which is a restaurant at the Fairmont Pacific Rim, just up the street.
Yeah.
And it was a really big one, I think, for the office. For Craig, it was like sort of at a new scale. And so, but we succeeded, like we pulled it off. It was a crazy one. And yeah, I really feel like I like learned a lot from the time that I spent working there. And, that's kind of how when Darcy and I decided, we'd always kind of had it in our mind that we wanted to do this.
Was it something that you talked about when you were in school?
It is. And in fact, we had like a little design collective with another friend of ours, Renine, who ended up moving to Switzerland after we graduated and worked for Herzog de Meuron for a number of years. She's now back, which is nice. But yeah, we had kind of like a side hustle in school called Evenings and Weekends. And we were just trying to,
right?
Yeah.
just trying to do projects. Yeah. We did a there was a
smart to not keep that now though.
Yes.
It was very appropriate
at the time.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, I feel like we had done Evenings and Weekends and had a few cool opportunities, like little opportunities to activate a few things in the city through that. But Darcy and I knew that we liked the idea of doing something together. I think we both also knew that we weren't like overly concerned with wanting to get our stamp as architects. Like that wasn't a top priority. The kind of scale at which we wanted to work didn't require it. And it meant a lot of time and a lot of oversight.
Yeah.
And then it also, I think because we knew we wanted to start our own firm, it felt like it made sense to jump in as early as we could, which I think has actually been like at the time, it was a really scary decision. And it, you kind of second guess yourself when you're 30 years old and you're like quitting your job and you're starting a company and you're not sure if you're going to be able to pay your rent or whatever. But looking back almost 10 years later, it's like, there's so many, I feel so happy that we made that decision. And I think the timing was totally right. We had way fewer responsibilities and things that we actually needed. Like the stakes were so
there's less at risk.
low. Yeah.
Yeah. No dependence, no mortgage. Like it was scary, but at the same time, it's like, that's exactly when you should be taking those risks.
100%. So what did it look like? How did you establish how did you establish a name? What were some of the other names that you spitballed? Out of curiosity.
Never really spitballed anything else.
Oh, really?
Never.
Yeah, we didn't. We were stumped for a while. We were like, we knew what we didn't want. Yeah,
this happens sometimes. Yeah, we knew we didn't want it to be our names.
Excellent idea. We talked about business ideas before this. Yeah, great start.
That's the business development part of you. Yeah.
Yep.
We also knew we didn't want it to be some kind of like gimmicky term within like the vernacular language of architecture.
Yep.
There was kind of like a naming convention that had been going around, and I think it works really well for certain people. We just didn't want it to feel like it was an extension of that. We wanted it to feel quite distinctive. And we ended up there's this bagel shop in New York called Russ and Daughters. And when we had this moment where we were like, it's actually insane that that's the only example we have ever heard of
and daughters
of the Smith and Sons, Jones and Sons, way of naming a business, but used with only female offspring. It felt traditional and radical at the same time.
Which is wild, right?
Yeah. And we were like, it's perfect. That's what we want to be, is sort of this intersection of classical or, like a sort of architectural convention that's turned on it, with a mix of radical in there.
Yeah.
It felt really right to us. I feel like we literally had this moment where we were like, yes.
Which is interesting because a lot of people, when they want to start their own practice for just basics of name recognition, want to always use their names. They always want to use their names.
Yeah.
I think from an early point, Emma and I, we have lots of interests, and life is long, and other things we basically wanted to have the opportunity at a certain point to potentially sell the business.
Yes.
And
include other people. I think as you grow a team, that's like, we felt like, that it would feel a lot more, lend itself better to giving a team the sense that, it's just as much.
This could be yours.
They could have a stake in this. Yeah. It also, I think, gave us a level of ambiguity that, like, for a very long time, Darcy and I did not have very much of a presence as like the human beings. Like, we didn't have pictures of ourselves. That was the news. Like, recently, our headshots only happened a couple of years ago. We were never it was I think comfy for us to have this
layer.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part of business. Business development is the hardest part of business.
Yeah.
I think, putting yourself, like, working towards putting yourself out there and not just finding something that can come along through, like, your connections and stuff is one of the hardest things to do. It doesn't come naturally to most people that are in business.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Another thing I think that's cool about the name that, like, is maybe worth mentioning is that, like, I don't think it's absolutely, we don't envision that it's a exclusively female team, but we liked the fact that it sort of, in again a kind of ambiguous way, alludes to the presence of females in the company. Like, I think,
and a historical underrepresentation of women in architecture.
Yeah. Like, I think that even just like the idea of passing something on to women, it being this this odd, the lack of businesses that are called and daughters, like Smith and Daughters.
Yes.
It felt like we were kind of giving a platform, drawing attention to that weird
dichotomy.
Sort of, like, so.
I have 2 girls, and I try to implore upon them the value that who they are and what they are. And I talk about this a lot with people I know in this industry that are, the women in this industry, and how, initially it was such a male dominated industry. And now when I talk to some of the schools, the majority of the enrollment is actually well over, I think it's like 50 to 60%. I know at Waterloo School of Architecture, it's like almost a 70% female enrollment now.
Yeah, it's changing really fast.
It
definitely didn't feel like, I think it still felt a bit old boys clubby to me when we started, but you can see it changing.
Yeah. I think, and despite that, we're case in point maybe, but the number of women who actually get registered is still significantly lower.
Lower? Yeah. Well, I'll say this because it's worth just knowing. But so one of the things that I love to do with this format is not just go and speak to people, but also like engage in conversations with people and then carry those relationships past this interview. And I do it in Toronto all the time. And then when I go and I travel for this now, I do the same thing and I curate dinners. So we're going on a dinner tonight with a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
But I also try to do like small little things outside of this. And so in August, coming up. So now I guess when this comes out, this will have been behind us. So let me just map that out. So not long ago, even though it's in the future, I'm doing like a ladies' night. I was just inviting a bunch of people I feel are like-minded over to my place to have drinks and socialize and get to know each other, and find a way to find some level of unity and connection and pass ideas back and forth and create that environment where there's no agenda other than get together and get to know each other for the purpose of empowering each other with ideas. And here's how you can modify this in your business. Here's some of the things that we're doing. And we kind of alluded to this before turning on the microphones, because it's an important thing to be able to have that. You feel better.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
So let's talk about, some of the projects that landed early in the practice, and what the scales of project have turned into over the time, and also being cognizant of time. We're in a shared boardroom, and I don't know whether or not it's going to be booked after this.
Yeah, someone just tried to peek through the mail slot. So
yeah, okay.
Well, if I'm trying to remember back to like kind of the really very earliest projects, like there were two. We had two when we quit our jobs and
started,
like officially signed up. And one was a renovation to apartment, like a condo in the West End of Vancouver, west of Denman, or west of Denman, kind of near Stanley Park. And
it's a good
I don't know, these guys were just willing to, it was Darcy that like wrote, like, met with them and got the project, but they decided to take a chance on us. We, had nothing to our names really at that point. And then
other than a competitive fee.
Competitive fee. And also I will say quite a strong, vote of confidence from our previous employers. We were very lucky to be quite well supported when we went out.
Your previous employers were endorsing you?
With the first one, it was Scott. Yeah. Scott knew that we were going to do this, and he recommended us for this project.
Wow.
And then the other project that we had at the time was actually one that we just released photos of 6-8 months ago. It was a long one. And it was the barn, like a sort of another, another building on the property Darcy was describing, her dad's property. But yeah, I mean, I feel like in the early days, as soon as I quit working for St. Marie, we received lots of referrals from both those guys and other people too. They've been so generous and supportive throughout our entire time doing this. But yeah, so those were our first two.
And I would say the first couple of years, it was almost 80%, maybe even 90% residential work. And, in the beginning, it was we couldn't really say no to anything. We were doing everything just to kind of pay the bills and get established. And that, was a lot of lessons learned through that process, both about how to run a business and how to generate work and kind of going through all of those growing pains. And then COVID happened 2 years after we started the business.
Yep. And
basically, within the span of a month, everything went on hold. And Emma and I were freaking out because nobody knew what was going to happen at that point, but everyone was just kind of on pins and needles, not willing to proceed or put money into projects. And we didn't really know what we were going to do. I feel like that was our first maybe really active business development. We were like, hey, we got to go find some work. And we did end up getting a photographer friend of ours ended up working with us over that time to do their loft in East Vancouver. And very shortly after that, it was the floodgates just opened for a lot of firms, I think, through that time, particularly commercial work. That's when things started to even out between those sides of our businesses. And people were stuck at home and just wanting to make better use of their space and kind of adapt to a new system of working. And if they had kids, new system of schooling.
Yep.
So even though that was a really scary kind of couple of months, the fallout, I guess, from going through COVID at an early stage was that we had kind of this influx of work for a number of years following that, which really kind of boosted our business at an early point.
Mm-hmm. I feel moving on from the early stuff, in the early days, there was also a lot of stuff that we did that we didn't shoot, because we were saying yes to a lot of stuff and we were working with different budgets and not everything always, we couldn't afford to shoot everything. We still can't, but I think just before COVID, we were approached by two guys who are now dear friends, and ongoing collaborators, and they're Yanni and Petro Karasiotis. They're two brothers who owned, at that time, just a restaurant called Namos on Fraser Street, actually just around the corner from the house I grew up in. They were kind of at the beginning of the like real sort of, gentrification of Fraser Street. Like, I want to put a more positive spin on it than that. Like, they added, I think their restaurant is one of the ones that went in early and really like started to change the face of that sort of strip of Fraser.
Yeah.
But they approached us because above their restaurant, they had a space that was actually zoned as a bar. And I remember when I lived in the house that there were some really weird bars that were in there. Like there was one that was like AstroTurf all over the floor. And it was it was like a backyard themed bar. And anyways, they kind of like had it, like it was part of, the building. So they wanted to do something with it. And I think it was a referral from Craig actually. At St. Marie. And so they called us up and they wanted us to give them a proposal to design a bar up there. And we were really excited about it because we'd done like a few kind of hospitality projects. They were more like cafes and stuff, and those were very exciting for us as well. But the idea of doing a bar was great. Yeah. And then sadly, COVID hit and they didn't know what was going to happen and put it on ice. And we weren't really sure that it was ever going to come back to life, but then it did. And when they came back, they had developed a far more, like a really exciting idea about what they wanted to do in there. They wanted it to be a raw bar, sort of sushi, like very elevated take on sushi, and that it was going to be cocktail forward, lots of Japanese liquors. And they didn't have a name, but they basically hired us, brought us on. We were the first ones to be brought on in terms of like the aside from the chef, to develop the concept. And, but they were so trusting. And I remember them just telling us, we were like, asking them about what they wanted the space to be like. And really it came down to this one word, which was they wanted it to be sexy. And I feel like it was sort of an amazing opportunity because it was just an amazing intersection of things that we had these really trusting clients who were willing to like kind of like go along with us on what we wanted to do there. And yeah, I think like basically Darcy and I sort of looked at each other and went, what does sexy mean to us? And for us, it was about a quality of light. Like we felt like we were going to be able to like distill that experience for people. The largest sort of lever that we had for influencing whether a person, like the occupants, were going to feel that the room was sexy was to really control the lighting.
And then we had the benefit of the space being completely unremarkable. Like there was nothing worth saving in that space. Like it was really
in bad shape.
You didn't want to save the turf?
It was still there.
The tiki bar, yeah. But there was these two
sexy with turf. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
There were these there was nothing about the building that was worth saving. And they had small budgets. We're like, how are we gonna deal with this? There was two windows that were west facing, overlooking the street, and one of basically the very first design decision we made was to cover them up and make a black box. And that gave us ultimate control of light.
There was things like that, nothing that we wanted to save, like Darcy said, but there were things that we knew we would need to hide because we didn't have a budget where we could actually like refinish everything. Right. And so the floor was like uneven and the ceiling was kind of a hot mess. And so we knew that given the program, like what they were planning to offer in terms of food and drink, that the bar needed to sort of play center stage, because that was where not only were they going to be preparing the cocktails, the plan was also to have most of the food prepared there sort of as in a performative way. And so we, like in terms of planning the space, we sort of identified that the bar really needed to be substantial in order to, accommodate 3 people, 2 bartenders and a chef. And also we wanted it to be visible from everywhere in the room. Like it really needed to be the focal point. And so we put it in the middle of the room, and then just literally it came down to circulation and like what other programs were required in the space, that like the only logical answer was to sort of embed everything else, like the banquettes and the host desk and the wine, storage and the host stands in around the perimeter, and then everything in between that sort of perimeter block of program that ringed the room, and the bar was primarily circulation. There's a few tables that kind of flowed. So the layout it felt like there was a clarity and like a real logic behind what we were doing from like a layout perspective. And it also really lended itself really well to reinforcing the idea that we had about light when we started to really like dig in, Darcy and I, to like what was the quality of light we wanted to create that was going to make it feel sexy. We found ourselves like looking at and loving all these images of kind of dusky, almost dystopian. A lot of them were from Blade Runner 2049, but it was kind of this orangey amber light. And it really is evocative of like a sunset or, the setting sun at the perimeter of the world. And so we decided to draw attention to the walls and by doing that, draw attention away from the ceiling, the two sort of horizontal planes that we knew we were never going to be able to sort of improve enough.
Right.
And it ended up being this room where, like, on a pretty tight budget and a pretty tight timeline, we were able to be so impactful. And it's so simple. Like, it's really just this ring of light that's amplified by the color of the plaster and the mirrors, and really trippy, and gives you this kind of sense of suspended dusk, like that you're just in sunset. And when you go in there and it's daylight outside and you spend a little time in there and then come out again, it's very disorienting. But I think for us, Emma, that project was sort of the catapult. Like, it was the opportunity to do something that felt really clear and, sort of uncompromised in terms of like the vision that we had. Mm-hmm. And then that really was like opened up opportunities for us once we did that. And the photos were so successful. Like, Emma Peter shot it, and I think people really responded to those photographs. And then there's been a lot of momentum just built around that, I think.
Kind of got it all.
I haven't said anything. I normally interrupt.
Yeah, I was waiting.
Sorry. I mean, you just told a really, really great story, and I didn't need to interrupt it. I didn't have any questions. You kind of answered it all as you went. I can appreciate. I mean, I love movies more than almost anything. And so when you referenced 2049, I had an idea exactly when you referenced that, what it was going to look like inside. Have you ever seen the interview of the Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling, the famous interview of the two of them during the promotion of that movie?
I feel like I've seen clips of it.
Were they drinking?
No, I don't think so.
After this, I'll show it to you.
Okay. I have a Pinterest board that's called Forever Yours Harrison Ford, because he is literally like the heartthrob of my life.
Oh, you and this woman. I went to school years ago with a woman, not a woman now, but a girl. Her name was Shayla, and Shayla was like a number one Harrison Ford. And I remember in film class, like, she would always talk about Harrison Ford, and like, I love Harrison Ford as well. I love Harrison Ford. I've seen almost everything he's done. Mm-hmm. Also Ryan Gosling. How can you not?
Yeah.
My wife and I just last week watched Hail Mary. Have you seen it?
No.
If anyone hasn't seen Hail Mary, go watch Hail Mary. It is fantastic.
Okay.
Such a different twist on a sci-fi. The same way you describe the way you design this bar, and trying to like completely uproot your knowledge base of what a bar can be like when you control the light. This is a completely different sci-fi. Sorry, it's another sidetrack of things.
Cool.
So when you look at where you're at now in terms of scales of project, you have a range between single family, some commercial projects. Is there a certain type that you have not yet acquired that you want to acquire?
Hell yeah.
Okay, go ahead. What is it?
There's a couple of things.
3 hotel. I want to do a hotel.
And do you want like a large scale hotel, or do you want like a boutique hotel?
I think a boutique hotel would be like a real nice way to ease
Enter.
into it. I think that it would really like play into our skill set. Like, even though we haven't done one yet,
Yeah.
I feel really confident because I think that we're like, I think, you know, we've kind of shown over the last few years that I think we've been quite successful at developing restaurant and bar
Yep.
interiors.
Hospitality is already there.
And then we also have a lot of experience working on really refined residential interiors. And so I feel like it's a sort of marrying of those two things. And
Well, and condos and apartments, which, you know, understanding how to design for those spaces is a similar designs for hotel.
Yeah. So I mean, anyone listening? I want a hotel.
There you go. You have to whisper it. Say it.
I want a hotel, please. Yeah.
Does it have to be in Vancouver?
No.
Okay, just making sure. So if you're a hotelier and you're out there and you're debating who you should consider, you know, here's an option.
Yeah. We will kill it. I promise. Yeah.
And outside of practice, what does life look like for you in terms of now hobbies and family and growth? What does it look like?
My husband and I live in North Vancouver.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, we kind of back right onto Seymour Mountain. We spend a lot of time just kind of out on the trail network with our 2 dogs. We love to cook. We cook a lot. We cook basically every night. We've been married now for 10 years, but we met online. We went on our first date, and it was actually like not a very good first date, and it was wrapping up. And the one thing that kind of like saved it was talking about food. And he ended up walking me home that night. And by the time we got to my apartment, it was just like totally clear that he was going to be somebody special in my life. So that's remained a really, really important part of our relationship. We also go to see a lot of shows. Like it kind of ebbs and flows depending on what's happening. But
Shows, music?
Okay. Yeah. Like in the last couple of weeks, we've gone to see Kurt Weill, an old country singer named Dwight Yoakam.
Okay.
And we're going, we've got like a whole kind of catalog of things coming up through the end of the year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
My life is like sort of basically it boils down to 2 things at the moment. It's and daughters on the one side, and then my daughter. Fig. Yeah. Her name is Fig. It's short for Figaro. And she's 3.5. And
great age.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's photo day today. It's her first time getting her photos taken.
You do her hair?
I didn't do her hair. Her dad did her hair, and by doing her hair, I just mean he brushed it. But I did think about what she was going to wear, and she looked awfully cute this morning. You know, she is just the best. And we live in East Van, actually pretty close to where I grew up.
Yep.
And we live in an apartment. We have a big deck, and we have a garden. And in a lot of ways, I feel like the way that I'm bringing up Fig, I just realized this sort of feels like a very 2026 version of my own upbringing. Like, in 1980, my parents could afford a dilapidated house that they fixed up, and then they made a garden. And in 2026, I have a tiny apartment with a very big deck. I feel like basically what I'm trying to say is I'm very grateful that she's still growing up in a sort of with a magical garden and all of that. But, you know, in the constraints of today's market.
What was your mom's name?
My mom's name was Raywin, which is it's a Welsh name, but it's popular in New Zealand. My family is from New Zealand.
Okay.
And my mom was born there in Auckland. And so.
Have you named the garden Ray's Garden?
No, Fig has my mom's name. It's her middle name, but no, we haven't.
You should.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm saying this, and I don't know who the hell I am to say this to you. So you can tell me to go F myself if you need to, but one of the things my dad bestowed upon me, one of the loves that I have, is using a magnifying glass to write. So you can, if you use a magnifying glass on wood, you can etch into it. And I think a really cool way of using the ray of the sun would be to take a piece of wood, write out. You could either write it. I just literally use the sun, and you etch, like Ray's garden into a small little piece of wood and put a stake in it and put it out on the garden.
That's a nice idea. Yeah.
I don't know. That's me and my sentiment.
Cute. No, I love that. That's very sweet. Yeah.
So I got to tell you, I've loved sitting here. I normally do like a nice whole wrap up, but all I want to say is to those listening, this is And Daughters. And if you haven't been following along to their story and what their work looks like, you can find it online on Instagram. I'll be sharing it. You can follow their own account. I highly recommend that you do. If you're in design, you're probably going to get some ideas from them. They're highly creative. That you've heard how lovely they are, the history of their life. Here I am actually doing a summary of it. Emma and Darcy, thanks for taking time to do this. I know that you're a small studio, and when you take time away from your clients, it's not always easy with limited time in the day. I really appreciate it. I look forward to chatting with you again tonight at dinner. It's been a pleasure for me. So thanks for doing this.
Well,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been really, lovely to, I don't know, just expand the kind of conversation about the lineage of how we got here. And you've been fantastic to talk to.
Yeah, it's really nice to be asked questions. Like, I feel like so rarely do we get to talk about, our lives. It's so much of the conversation is usually heavily weighted in sort of just the nitty gritty, like the work. And I feel like the way that you're able to weave the two things together and connect dots is really remarkable.
We were even able to connect dots today of our history that may have not been totally obvious before this conversation.
Yeah. So thank you for making that possible. And it was wonderful to meet you. I'm very excited for dinner tonight.
Thanks. Yeah. It's been great.